Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Well, thank you, Sean. And once again, we are No Dice, No Glory. We're on the road once more. Today is the 30th of June. And guess where we are? Well, let me introduce who I'm here with. First of all, we have Glenn, who's been on the podcast quite a bit. And he's on the NDNG team. Say hi.
Mitch.
And we have Jason, another guy that is on the NDNG team that does. What game do you do? And what are we here playing today?
All that commotion here in the background is a massive Star Wars Armada game that's going on right now. So,
Star Wars Armada.
Yes, man. Yes, sir.
So
we did a non-standard tournament today. Typically, tournaments can attract some fairly competitive people. Lately, we've been trying to open the aperture a little bit and show that.
Let's open the aperture even more.
Okay.
Let's talk about what Star Wars Armada is.
Oh, sorry. I guess we need to back up a little bit.
This is what happens, Glenn, when you have experts on the show.
Anything but
it's nice to try that for a change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost I'm like thinking, when does that ever happen? So anyway,
well,
what is Star Wars Armada?
Well, first of all, I appreciate the expert title, although I would argue that I'm probably more of a crazy fanatic more than an expert. But
Same thing.
Either T-shirt works.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. So Star Wars Armada is a tabletop board game. It has some roots in Star Wars X-Wing, which some people may have heard of. It is more of a larger scale. So instead of a dogfight where you're piloting fighters around, you are controlling the bigger ships, the Star Destroyers, the Mon Calamari cruisers. In some cases, you can end up reenacting the bigger battles of what makes Star Wars so much fun for a lot of people. So,
well, I think what made it fun for me, Star Wars, is I didn't get into it till recently, and I just think it's fun, except for the Jar Jar thing. I do agree with people on that. So this is by Fantasy Flight Games. How long has this been around?
It first was released back in 2012, 13, I believe. I came on board in round 14 or 15, I believe. And that's when the second wave of expansions came out. That's when the Star Destroyer came out, and everybody knows what the Star Destroyer is. It's the first ship you see in the very first Star Wars film. So that's what hooked me. Was that I can play with this on a board?
Yeah, it is kind of neat.
Yeah. So, and ever since I've gotten hooked. Most everything comes pre-painted. You have large ships that come pre-painted. You got small little fighters that come unpainted. You can paint them if you want to. You can go as crazy with it as you want, or as small scale as you want.
So one of the things, too, most of the people out there listening are hardcore historical gamers. So there's a reason why we're recording this today and why we're doing Armada is I took one of those hardcore historical gamers, Glenn, and I kind of goaded him into, I don't know if you noticed the slight goad, into playing this game. And really, other than Steve McLaughlin showing it to you, which means that Steve just beat you up, this is the first time you ever played it. Now, as a hardcore historical guy, what do you think of this game, now that you played a full game?
Well, it's a fun game, and it wouldn't have lasted even these 5 years or so since it's been out if it wasn't a game that had a lot of replayability, as I say. So, in other words, you can play any game once, twice. Are you tired of it? And this game, I can see it's got such a large context that every game can be different. And, in fact, one of the beautiful things is that even a novice can win a game because it's got basic principles.
Because you and I both won our games today.
This is true.
It was against the same guy, and we need to get him on. But, it's interesting that you say that because this is a watered-down version. There were no admirals. And, as you build like a fleet, you see all the different ships. But the other one, too, what makes this game great is that you pick 3 objectives, and your opponent picks 3 objectives. So every game kind of turns out really unique. So tell us about that, Jason. How do the objectives work for this game? Because there's no terrain, there's no, well, there kind of is, but how do the objectives work, and what makes this game kind of work with that mechanic?
So, and this is something that Fantasy Flight Games had brought in kind of new to Armada that was not seen in X-Wing, and that was the introduction of thematic objectives. So rather than just you being like you're just destroying the other player, you're just destroying their other ships, you actually have a goal. You have a specific objective you need to accomplish. Whether it's you have some intel packets that are spread out in the space, the battlefield, as it were, and you need to go pick those up in order to win the game. There's other objectives where you designate one of your ships as the objective ship, and if you destroy it, you get extra points. There's a lot of different objectives, and those objectives actually expanded even more when Fantasy Flight released the first campaign
Corellian
Conflict, which is a very it's a bit of a marathon. It's tough to get people on board to do that at times. It's very comparable to Flames of War campaigns, and you're in it for the long haul. But it's so rewarding in that it has a overarching theme, and the decisions you make and what you do like impacts the rest of your team, and in a way impacts the story that you're retelling or that you're reimagining. But anyway, in the single matches, what you're referring to is that, yes, every list that you build, every fleet that you bring to play, it comes with 3 cards. And each card is a different objective, a different
3 cards
theme.
that you select going into a tournament.
Correct. Now, you have a choice. Now, do I want to be first? Do I want to be the player that moves first and shoots first? And then I got to play my opponent's objectives that he selected that work well for his fleet? Or vice versa? Do I want to be on the defensive and have him pick from my objective cards that I picked that work well for how I've built it? So there's an angle of strategy and pre-planning in there, and there will be times where you will pick. This happens to me quite often when I go to game championships. I'll pick 3 objectives that work great for my fleet, that I do really well on. I know how they work, and then I'll go up against somebody who hasn't picked those for his fleet, but does really well. It does even better, and ends up mopping the table up with me. So that'll happen times as well. But it does add another level of dynamic to the game, where it's not just you just roll your dice and blow stuff up. There's a larger goal at plays.
Well, and that's the beauty of that. I mean, I think, to my knowledge, the first guys to start that were Flames of War.
Yeah.
And previous games pretty much we'll just go kill the other guy. And that
Not
might
fun.
work for a basic level, but the beauty of the game, and again, this is no different than actual military operations in real life, is that, no, you have an objective. You go in there with a purpose. And frankly, as in the case today, both of us lost most of our forces, but we got the objective, so that's how we won the game.
Yeah, and what I did was I built a rebel fleet for Glenn, and Glenn, was on casual time, so I played the rebels, and we actually played the same guy, and we beat him, even though I only had 1 ship left. You only had 1 ship left, but we understood the objectives. We stay focused on the objectives. We won. With the cards, it's not that clear cut, and my history with the game is loved it when it came out. Haven't played it in 4 years. And I would say that what is apprehensive about me getting into it are the builds. But I realize that the meta in this game doesn't change as fast as X-Wing. So those folks out there that are scared of X-Wing.
Yeah,
but
that's absolutely correct. There's more churn going on right now. I'm sure everyone's heard of X-Wing rolling out 2.0 to correct some mistakes in the past. But I will say though that if you coming into the Armada environment, the Armada meta, FFG was very careful, and when they were designing Armada from the very start, there are very few issues that have persisted in the Armada facts. Like the facts have largely been very administrative in nature. What nerfs that have been enacted on the game have been fairly minimal, and there has been very little. There has not been nearly as much outrage compared to what has gone on with X-Wing.
And that's a testament to Fantasy Flight's model of how they build games. They play test forever, everything's secret, and they came out good. The other thing, too, that I'm apprehensive, but I do want to get back into this game, are those objectives. Because I haven't played this game enough to know my style, and I play Empire, which are mostly bigger ships. And, folks, it's not just big ships. There's fighters. There's tons of fighters if you want, and those are good.
Have gotten a lot more dominant in the meta as of recently. Although I will say that the latest wave, Wave 7, brought back some great upgrades and enhancements to existing ships. It was kind of cool. So the Star Destroyer has been around since 2014, but the latest wave, Wave 7 for the Empire, was, yes, you got a new model, you got a new ship, but it was actually a newer version of an existing Star Destroyer.
It's Wave 8, right? The Chimera?
Sorry, yes, Wave 8. Thanks for the correction.
He is the expert, by the way.
Well, yeah, right. So I can't keep track of them. But the latest wave with with Thrawn being brought into it, the Profundity Radis from Rogue One being brought into Armada. They brought in a lot of upgrades and enhancements to bring the big ship game back and take a little bit of emphasis off the squadrons. So now we're back to a much more balanced meta. And Glenn can probably testify that your first game here, you kind of saw that there was a little bit of a mix of everything. You had some fleets that didn't have any fighters and were just big ships, and then you had some that were small ships and lots of fighters, and they all had their different strengths and weaknesses, different things to kind of bring to the table. So,
well, that gets into it, basically combined arms, and it's
yeah.
like in any game, any good game out there, it's rock, paper, scissors, and there's not usually one answer to something. It's you got to bring a mix of things so you can suit every situation.
You got to come with your toolbox ready to go, I think, in this game, which is what I kind of like about it.
So kind of circling back to your concern over the objectives,
it's because I'm not smart enough to understand them yet.
So what I'm not a very competitive player, but what I do like to do is I like to bring people into the game, and one of my favorite things to do is to teach new people how the game works and how much fun it is. But the first thing that I tell everyone that when they jump into Armada is don't get hung up on all the upgrades, the objective cards, all the different add-ons and stuff. Don't get hung up on that stuff because this isn't a card game. This is a strategy game with moving pieces, with moving ships that each behave a little differently. Unlike how X-Wing was for a while, where it was a card game and you also moved ships around a little
Rolled
bit.
some dice.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. So this game is definitely all about how you position your forces, how you combine your forces, and there's a lot of experimentation involved, and it's a lot of fun. There's no, like Glenn said, there's no real one answer to a problem, and you'd be surprised the kind of things that people cook up and invent, and then FFG has to go scratch their head and be like, oh wait, I guess we probably need to rewrite that a little bit because they found a little loophole there. That is pretty creative, but we need to tone that down a little bit and make it still fun for
So
everybody.
I heard the Demolisher got nerfed.
Not really.
Do you know
not
what?
By much.
Do you
Not by
know
much.
from reading, because just this week I started reading again about the game and looking at it, but they have boarding parties in this, and I'm like, how the hell are they pulling that off? But I looked at the cards for the boarding parties. That's ingenious.
Yeah. Well, I will. Well,
They get activated by a squadron,
yeah.
and then an engineering boarding party could turn one of your opponent's face down cards to face up at range 1.
Right.
That's smart.
I will caution you though. We were using some custom cards today, but those custom cards were a variation of an existing FFG official upgrade. In that there are 2 upgrades that you can put on a ship. One upgrade can either flip a damage card, so we have damage cards to count how many points of damage are on the ship, and then if a face-up damage card has some additional problems or issues like you lost all your shields or now you can't change your speed, just more engineering problems. So this latest wave introduced boarding engineers where you can basically flip one of those cards and make it worse for the enemy player. And then you have something else. You have boarding troopers that can strip away an enemy's defenses. Like, there's all kinds of little shenanigans. What we were playing with today was a custom scenario. We threw in a few custom.
You forgot the
custom
coolest
cards.
boarding party, the Darth Vader boarding party.
Oh yes, inspired by Rogue One, where he basically can board a ship and take out a hero or officer. It's absolutely awesome.
He's Darth Vader.
Exactly.
He is the Sith Lord.
Yes, he is. And I've played a few lists with him. He's been a little underutilized as of recently.
He's not cheap.
He's not cheap, and people generally like to have him as an admiral rather than just a boarding party guy. You know, he's got some great bonuses as the leader of your fleet, not just the passenger.
So Glenn, historical crowd out there. Why should they be playing this game? Why is it kind of worth their 10 minutes or however much free time do they have? Like, you know, what can we say to get them to kind of, maybe I should try this out?
Well, one is that the models come pre-painted.
Pre-painted.
So that makes it very easy just to buy and play.
No assembly required as well.
And
Yes.
so, you know, I think this is for, so like, I'll give you an example. One of my friends, we have a regular Team Yankee game that we play every 2 weeks. And then he announced a couple weeks ago, he said, you know what, I just got to take a break from Team Yankee. I'm kind of Team Yankeed out. And I think we all get to that point about every game we play after a while. It's not new. It's not interesting. You've really mastered it. So this is a great kind of game you take a break on. You say, you know what, I think I could do something different for a while, and it just doesn't require as much investment as the opposite. So if somebody says, I want to get into Team Yankee, right, I want to get into Team Yankee, okay, great. You're going to go invest 100 hours to buy, put together, paint models, and learn the game. This is too easy just to go ahead and invest a couple $100, and you're off and running.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of is.
You also have a really generous and very friendly group out here. There's a Star Wars.
You could say that in the vernacular. The guys that play this tend not to be dicks.
Usually. I have met a few, though.
Every game has dicks.
But here, particularly in the Nova region, there's a Facebook group. Just to give you a basic idea, there's 600 people on the Facebook group just for this area alone for this particular game. And people will often just go on there like, hey, looking for a game. This is the store I'm looking, I'm close to. And usually within like a few minutes, somebody will be like, yeah, I'm good for a game. Let's go play. There's a meetup group. There's.
Do you know what somebody needs to do? And I'm not smart enough to do this, but Tinder, Grindr is get this right. You have it where you pick the game you want to play, and within 50 miles,
swipe right,
and the person has their. My name is Glenn. I play Team Yankee U.S. And if you want to play him, you swipe right. If you don't, isn't that a great idea? Just thought of it.
You could retire off of an idea like that.
Probably could.
Shoot, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. But wouldn't that be kind of neat? Like, okay, and then you just like set a time, and it's like hooked. I should shut up. It's like hooked to your calendar, and you can send each other lists.
Mitch, you better drive down to the patent office like this afternoon.
No, I don't think if you could patent something like. But isn't that a great idea?
That's a great idea. The only problem with it is I can't imagine looking at all those pictures of gamers. I mean, it might.
No. Like what you do is you have the gamer like a small picture, but the main picture would be like their list that they want to try out. Because there's sometimes, like for Team Yankee, or even this game, I want to try out my list against something particular. And I could just go and find it.
We actually already have a lot of that going on and Facebook's a great platform for that. There's a few players who will post their lists, and they'll ask for inputs. You'll have new players that are new to the game and are like, "Hey, I think this works, but can I get some feedback on it? What I should be doing with it?"
And women on this app, if they just want to hook up with a gamer, they could just put it out there, and then instead of a list, they'll picture their boobs.
You were doing so well up until that point.
I know. I had to throw it
blow
away.
Your guys' mind in that I've actually been seeing. This is the first. I've played a few board games, so this is the first board game where I've actually seen a lot of female players playing this game, especially from the Maryland and West Virginia area.
We were all here together for a Flames tournament not too long ago, and you were teaching. I think it was Eve. Which Star Wars game?
It was Armada, and yes, it was a player from Maryland. She had played a few normal board games before. She was dating somebody who was really into Flames of War and tabletop, and
they broke up this week. I don't know if you knew.
Yeah, I heard, but she really enjoyed playing Armada, and she's told me, even after, like, hey, I still want to, come down at some point and play Armada again. That was fun.
So, and we do want to have her on because we finally just had a first female. That's James Copeland's wife on. People love that one. Your wife I've seen here. My wife came today, and they're not going to play these games.
No, they usually pat us on the head and say, "Have fun, boys."
Yeah, we'll see you guys later.
That's pretty much the reaction I get from
my boyfriend. We're very accepting. We're so accepting.
No. So I've been dating my girlfriend for about 3 years, and I'm actually going to be. Don't tell. She's not going to listen to this because she doesn't listen or do anything related to Armada. But I am going to propose to her this Christmas.
Christmas. What are you waiting for?
Christmas.
Christmas, right?
That's her present.
Exactly right.
But let's say it doesn't turn out great. You ruined Christmas.
Yeah, but for the 3 years that I've been dating her, like, she knew that I was obsessed with modeling. She knew I was obsessed with building and painting these things and playing the same game for like 4 hours straight.
And I hate to tell you, she probably already knows you guys are getting engaged in Christmas.
Yeah, she probably knew before I did.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point. So
Jedi mind trick.
Yeah. But yeah,
So looking at the game today, you played it first time, full game. Was it fun?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I know I'm beating the same questions.
Well, there's always that learning curve, but really the game mechanics are not hard to understand. There are some things that are very different, such as you shoot and then move. Mm-hmm. But if you can just understand some of the basic mechanics, I didn't even try, for example, to understand some of the special abilities of
and you forget about them.
Well, it's like, you know what, they're okay, but it's not hard to pick up the basic game mechanics, and that's what I said. It's one of those easy to learn, difficult to master type games, I think.
So I know I'm going to get back into it, and Glenn did win the charity. Was it the giveaway, and it was a light cruiser.
Yeah, Glenn.
Custom painted.
Yeah.
Custom painted.
I donated to the store a custom painted Imperial Light Cruiser. It was from Wave 7, I believe. And
I have the waves memorized.
It's a little... that particular one's a little hard to get. It was actually a gift to me by somebody else. But I painted it in the Clone Wars era, Star Wars Clone Wars era livery with some red lines, red striping. It looks pretty cool. I do custom paints on the side. You can find me online, Cadet Brick. Just Google and
he'll also you'll see in this on the No Dice No Glory page. And we want to get him to write more, but he can leave his info there.
Words are hard, spelling and all that.
I know it is. So, is there any? And I don't want to put you on the spot. Is there any temptation to collect a force in this game?
Well, I think that it's a matter of, as with any game, is if you have a friendly group that's always meeting and it's a regular thing, then I think that really entices people to get in, because we have all invested in games that turned out that, and everybody stopped playing it after a certain amount of time, and then that's just kind of a dead end.
I hate that.
This seems to be an enduring game. It seems to be a game that has a fair amount of followers here that play regularly. And I mean, let's go to Ancients. So I started playing Ancients in 1976. I love Ancients. I think it's great. But to try to find a regular group that plays all the time, and it's hard.
As we look at the entire display here of By Fire and Sword, folks, also I should have mentioned we are once again at the Games Tavern in Chantilly, Virginia, and there's more By Fire and Sword here than any place I've ever seen. But I know guys that have those books. But
But where are they?
Where are they?
See 'em?
Like, where do I find guys to play some of these games? This game does not have this problem that you'll always find guys. And you don't have to collect the Force. I don't play Rebels because I think Insurgents, they're bad people. And you can borrow mine until you want to come over to the dark side. And I mean that literally.
And that is also the reaction you're going to get from people who have been playing Armada for a while. People all the time will have people who join the Facebook group and have like the starter kit but don't have anything for a full force. Everyone is more than happy and generous to meet and bring their collection and let you try stuff before you go and buy it. I have all the waves. I have multiples of everything, and I usually end up bringing most of it with me when I come Tuesday nights and Saturday afternoons. That's usually when we try to meet, and I'll just bring everything because if someone wants to try it and pick it up real quick, I'll have everything there, and I'm more than willing to be lending that stuff, and as is most everyone in the group as well.
So you could find him on the Grindr app. Swipe right for Jason. But no, I think this is first of all, Jason was the TO today, and it was awesome. I'm glad that you kind of goaded me to come back and try to play this.
That.
And it's a lot of fun. I'm going to get back into it. I'm going to grab Glenn because his Team
I've
Yankee.
already started my fleet.
Yes, he already started his fleet.
Glenn off too much. I kind of threw a lot at him because we were doing some custom things. The whole
maybe not all the rules were explained at the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Do you want a copy of the rules? I can give you a copy of the rules.
No, his rules.
Oh, his rules were.
I had some custom injects and a custom write-up. I've got some great feedback from the players here who actually really liked what we wrote up. There were some like little typos and little things there that I'm going to go fix and flesh it out a little better. But that's one of the things that I like to do in my spare time is I like the objectives and style the FFG has already created is rock solid, a lot of fun, endless hours of play. But because I'm a fanatic, I like to add my own
break the
spin.
game.
I like to break the game.
And I got to tell you, the guys that came and played, and you play with all these guys, it seems like quite a bit. They're all really good guys. I had enjoyed meeting some of these guys. Too many Navy guys. And you know that it gets a little dicey with those guys a little bit because, they're used to dancing in small little ship gangways.
That's what's wrong. Being in the Navy, it's almost like being in the military, right?
Yeah, it's almost, yeah. And, it's 500 guys go out, 250 happy couples come back.
You guys are terrible.
Why do Navy guys have their name in the back of their pants? So you know who you're dancing with? Hey.
Mitch, weren't you giving me a hard time today about me mocking the Air Force so much?
It's all right, but the Air Force can mock the Navy. It's all good.
Really.
It's all cyclical. Not really. But
Not really.
Yeah, I think this is a fun game, and I think folks out there I know that you were like, I love my tanks, but I'll just go back. I heard this 4 years ago. I'm not going to play Team Yankee. Then they tried it, and now they're hooked. I was one of those guys. I'll tell you, I didn't really get into Star Wars growing up, but I played this game because Steve McLaughlin, once again, the Godfather, showed me the game. I thought the rules were awesome. There's games I play because the rules are tight. They're really good rules. And the game, it's like you don't have to paint here. There's things about it.
Not too constricting, like structured enough to where you have some uniformity and you have a very simple and understandable format, but it's not so constricting that it takes some of the fun out of the game where you have to have your ships painted a certain way. You have to, do these certain things. And Armada's been good about keeping it structured enough to where everyone knows where everyone's coming from. There's a standard way of playing, there's a standard way of doing things, but it's still open, it's still flexible enough.
And you don't need to be a Star Wars fanboy to play this. Because,
that's the best part.
And I really, folks out there, I don't know who Thrawn is. I have no idea. And then some guy, one of the
There's
guys
another book coming out this winter. You should
but he goes
pick it up.
hey, look, I painted this for this in the expanded universe. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, I have no idea what you said. But as a gamer, I understand what that admiral does to the Force, and I understand how that flows in the game. So you don't need to be somebody that's into the genre, I think, to play this and have fun and do well. The rules are that tight. Because I have no idea.
But it probably will end up being the path down the dark side, and then you get into the expanded universe and all the
I tried
lore.
reading one Star Wars book. It was Aftermath. It was horrible. I will never read another.
Well, that's a bad example.
Is that why you have Admiral Jar Jar Binks in your force?
Yeah, Jar Jar Binks. I don't get Jar, but Jar Jar's in this game.
That was a bad book to start off on. Just letting you know, Mitch. So
it's
public safety announcement. The newer books that are coupled with the movies today. Just be careful. They're a little.
Is there a book that covers the fleet battles?
there are several books that cover fleet battles.
Will you put them on the write-up for this?
I will do my best. I'll include some links from the old
Because I'd read one.
expanded universe.
Because, you look at it yes, out there, you're a historical gamer, but they've built a history for this game that I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
How many books? There's over 1,000 books.
There are. Disney's tried to wipe most of them off the board because they don't have.
When they kind of rebooted it,
Right.
they had gone down some paths that they just couldn't right the ship, and so right.
But interestingly enough, though, FFG has been getting a lot of leeway from Disney to bring back stuff from the old school lore, from the books and some of the shows that were happening in the 80s and 90s, the inter period before the movies and the prequels. And then also there's some shows going on right now. You've got, you have the Clone Wars show, you have the Star Wars Rebels show, and you're seeing stuff that's on these what start out as kids shows. You see adults watching, and then stuff from those shows end up being put in the actual movies, and then you start seeing them actually being fleshed out as models on the board. So it all kind of interconnects, and more times than not, the fan base ends up winning and brings back some great things.
The only problem is it creates some situations. Like I just read in the paper yesterday that there's a big thing online whether Luke's lightsaber could cut through Captain America's vibranium shield.
Let me think about that. Yeah, I don't think it can. No.
I'm pretty sure Darth Vader would just force choke Captain America and be done with
Mark
it.
Hamill came on and said, yeah, it could, and then Captain... So
the guy that plays Captain America?
Yeah, Chris. Anyway, he said, well, he's just going to get some vibranium ninja stars, and he'll deal with it.
Do you know there's a... okay, and here's for the hardcore gamer. There is a game that actually you can have that argument. It's called Super Fights. And I bought it for my son, and you pull out, cards that give you a persona. Some of them are historical, like Martha Stewart's in it. And then you pull out, 2 superpowers. And then you do is everybody reveals their cards, and they argue who would have won that battle. And people are like, that's stupid. But,
that sounds awesome.
I brought up the Raven Rock, and I got a bunch of guys to play it all night. So it's really kind of neat. My son loves it because he'll argue a bad argument.
Perfect for an 11-year-old.
It's
right?
perfect. But Super Fights is it's a fun game. But here we can actually see what would have happened. I'm going to do another appeal. Try this game. There's guys like Jason that are out there that are, they are looking for guys to get back into it. And from the moment we met him when this place opened, Sean and I met him. He is a great advocate for the game, and he is not unique. There are guys out there that will pull you into these games that will teach you how to play. I recommend sitting down and playing this sometime. I think it's fun. I'm getting back into it because I bought my Chimera. Even though I don't know who Thrawn is. Is he Admiral?
Yeah. So
Is it Thrawn?
I'll tell you what, Mitch. This will answer all your questions. So
yes.
This will answer 2 of your questions. So 1, you're asking what books you need to start out with, and 2, who Thrawn is.
Yes.
You just need to go and look up the Thrawn trilogy, THRAWN. AWN. Yep. By Timothy Zahn. Go look at the original books that he wrote back in the 90s. That pretty much started the
Big Fleet.
Well, not the Big Fleet, but that is still remained the hallmark of some of the best Star Wars books ever written. And
you're the second one to recommend that.
Well,
to me.
and it's a testament to how well those books were written, how well they complemented the existing Star Wars movies and the universe. And you see him coming back in shows, and now he's got his own ship in a game now.
Plus, he has a cool name,
right?
Thrawn.
Yeah. So there are 2 more books coming out. Disney's rewriting how things are written, but definitely recommend those
Do you
books.
think there's ever a point in time we're going to see a mouse in outer space? Glenn?
A mouse in outer space.
What do you think? Who would win, Darth Vader or Mickey Mouse?
Wow, that's a
Think
tough
about
one.
it.
That's deep, man.
I'd have to turn to the U.S. Space Force to get their opinion on that.
Well, that's a great question.
Do you want to know more?
Yeah. Who would you, Jason? Who do you think would win? Donald Duck or that fish-looking dude, Admiral? It's a trap.
Admiral Akbar.
Yeah, there you go. Who would win? Donald Duck is a Navy guy.
I don't know. Between Donald Duck having a nervous breakdown or temper tantrum, and Admiral Akbar throwing his hands up in the air, just saying that this is a trap. I don't know. It's a hard one.
It's a trap.
But I will say that Admiral Akbar did pull off, blowing up a Death Star, whereas, Donald Duck just, it's Donald Duck. He's got 3 little nephews to deal with. And
but
can't
you
even
also
hack
got
that.
Was Donald Duck or was it Daffy Duck that his bill would get blown to the back of his head?
That was Daffy Duck.
Because Daffy Duck you can't kill Daffy Duck. God knows people have tried. He's like the Methuselah of he's indestructible.
So, Mitch,
Yes,
you're
sir.
going to start a new podcast about arguing about
Who would win, Donald Duck, Daffy Duck?
We should start a new podcast on
I think that needs to be a new
I
one,
think,
yeah.
go back to we'll do a review of that card game, and you can argue. I could see you arguing with your son about these things.
Okay,
but,
so
maybe we should talk about gaming.
we should talk about gaming, but in college, I took a course, and it was about American genre and thematics, and I created an argument of who Goofy and Pluto represented. Because Goofy is anthropomorphic, he walks around, he wears clothing, he walks on 2, he's bipedal. And Pluto is not anthropomorphic, he's an actual dog. He sleeps outside. And I'm like, why the disconnect in Disney? And I created this whole argument. Now, this is before the internet where you could watch every clip. But it was just so I could take and show an argument there. But I want people to think about that.
Glad to know what you accomplished in college.
I graduated, though.
So, in conjunction with Armada, I appreciate that, I
Yeah.
guess. So,
Well, we get all types listening.
It's all run by Disney, so I guess that kind of feeds into it. So
Right. Well, look, maybe they'll put it in the game. Maybe Jason will have a tournament. But, Jason, first of all, thank you for getting Glenn and I to play, talking us into it, throwing a great tournament. Folks out there, I know people loved his first article that I think was in February.
that's correct.
March. We want to get him writing more, talking about this great game. And this will be out pretty quickly. So you will see Glenn and I in 2 weeks at Historicon at the Team Yankee event. And Jason, are you like camped out here at Games Tavern looking for opponents?
Pretty much. I live like 5 minutes down the road, so this is usually where I come to play. I've gone other places, but Tavern's been Reed has been an incredible host here, and this is my store. I tell people this is my store.
And if you want to play him, like he's going to put his contact information once again, but you can reach him through the website. But once again, thank you, and may the
force be with you.
May the force be with you. And I guess Glenn will take us back to Sean.
All right, Sean. What's next?
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at No Dice, No Glory, and keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.